This guy's like 60 or something. I mean, this is an old man. This is a troll, and he has more hair than me, and I'm not even 30 yet. Okay? This isn't fair. This is the CHGO White Sox podcast. CHGO White Sox podcast, coming to you live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, my pal, Sarah.
Hi.
Hello. You got to yell at Alex Campbell because he said, Sarah, Fichter?
It is Sarah Fichter.
No, but he didn't say.
Oh, he said Fitcher?
Yeah, it wasn't.
Fichter.
Yeah, it was. No, it wasn't German enough. So we gotta work on that one. It was. Yeah.
Why were you guys talking about me?
He was. It was the end of the season show, so he was thanking me. He was thanking Joey.
Thanks,
he was thanking
Alex.
Sarah.
Okay.
You know, it was nice. No, he was being a nice person.
Alex is always a nice person.
No, he said you stink real bad.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. I'm like, what'd y'all say? Say it to my face.
No, he would. I think he would say what he said to your face. Anyways, we're going to talk about something completely different on today's show. We will be talking about the future being now in Chicago sports. We have a fun graphic that we'll share with you. We have Bove being a bozo. The guy hasn't even worked a game as pitching coach, but people are already out on our guy, Zach Bove. We'll talk about Zach Bove, and I'm obviously being facetious and being over the top here. I don't know if anyone's saying that specifically. And then we will get to the Sean Burke report card. I will talk about the future of Sean Burke. I'm not out on him, but if we are being realistic, 2025 wasn't exactly what we were expecting from the opening day starter. If you have any thoughts, let us know in the comments section and make sure you hit that thumbs up button. We are coming to you live for the first time since my off-season project plan was pretty much released, and there were two questions. One, Daniel Wagoneer says, it seems so strange why people are over-hating Vargas so much. He is 22-23 and had a 1.9 WAR season. Give him a chance to smooth it out a bit. I don't know. Did he have that? Or, does that career WAR? I don't know if he has that much WAR there. But no, I agree. Yeah, 1.9 WAR in 2025. Not bad. And yeah, he's 25. So a little bit on the older side, about to be 26. But it's his first full season not on a World Series team. I'm with you there, Daniel. Let's give Vargas a little bit more run. And La Pantera, can't believe he watches the show. Luis Robert, friend of the show. Please not Josh Bell. He has not posted a positive WAR number for way too long. Kind of scary. That's why I think it's a buy low. I think that guy could easily turn things around and be a 120 OPS plus hitter at first base, which would be valuable. The defense might not be there, but still, if he's around, half a WAR to 1 WAR, that's decent at least at first base. They're not going to be getting anyone perfect. So, it's just kind of the state that the White Sox are in. And now, before we get too much further, we do also want to bring up myfooddrives.org/team/782427. The Southside Food Drive that is currently going on has raised $20,000, $20,373. $1 equals 3 meals. This is the 26th most raised money on the Greater Chicago Food Depository Food Drive so far. The 26th most raised money in a virtual food drive yet. We are hitting a real difficult point in America where people who have been getting government stipends to get food, that is now up in the air with the food drive that is currently going on. You could support people in Chicago. 1 in 5 Chicago homes face food insecurity. 1 in 4 Chicago homes with children face food insecurity. So head over to the food drive that was put on by All Sports Scene and supported by a ton of White Sox content creators, CHGO White Sox included. And if you can, please go donate over at myfooddrives.org/team/782427. I know some people from CHGO, like Kevin and Jake, have donated. I made a donation as well, and obviously we'll make a greater push as we were doing this all November long. So if you can do it later in the month when you get paid on the 20th or whatever, or maybe you get a Thanksgiving a gift from your grandparent. I don't know. Feel free to scan that code and donate to the Southside Food Drive. Again, $1 equals 3 meals for the Greater Chicago Food Depository. All right. I think that's all of the house cleaning out of the way. We can now get into the fun and dumb stuff. We have a graphic that people, of course, are getting mad about. Jake and Kevin just try to do their job. Just try to say, hey, let's put something fun out there. You know, Chicago sports haven't been as nauseating as they have been previously. And let's put a graphic talking about the young players in Chicago. You got Josh Giddey on the graphic. You got Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar on the graphic. You got Matas Buzelis. You got Kate Horton and PCA. You got Roma Dunze, and you got Caleb Williams. And then in the left corner, our guy Colson. Not only is there a White Sox on the graphic, they could not deny it. Even if it was just, you know, like a Lenine Sosa type year. No. Colson Montgomery, 20 home runs, former first-round draft pick at shortstop. The new generation has arrived, and Colson Montgomery is undeniable. I wasn't asked about the graphic. I'm not complaining. Wasn't asked about the graphic. So I will say, if you're upset Kyle Teal's not on there, I am too. Kyle Teal should be there with Colson Montgomery. Part or co-headliner of the Garrett Crochet trade, nearly putting up 2 WAR in his first rookie season. That rookie season not even starting until May or even, I guess it was like June-ish. Kyle Teal should be up there. If we're putting 2 from every team, there's only 1 White Sox up there. Kind of feels like Kyle Teal should be up there. And I think most of those players are under 25, so some people are upset that Kobe White wasn't up on that list, but I do think the oldest player there is 25. Kobe's kind of old in NBA terms. This is like his 6th or 7th year in the NBA. Also, he hasn't played this year, so it's tough to put him out there. I didn't really mind the graphic outside the fact that Kyle Teal 100% should be up there. You know, I think for the most part, Chicago sports is getting into a pretty decent groove. I don't want to jinx anything, but it does seem like the Bears actually have a true leader at the helm with Ben Johnson. Even if Ryan Poles doesn't work out, I still think Ben Johnson will. I don't think Ben Johnson can do much right now to get fired. This doesn't even feel like a Nagy situation. This feels, for some reason, really real. Never had a coach that felt like this. The Bears feel all right. Kyle Davidson seems fairly smart, and getting talent is never, you know, is really undeniable. The first round, first overall pick, Connor Bedard, that's going to help. The fact that they got Nazar, who looked like, you know, somewhat of a gem, like that name even stuck out in the second round when he was drafted, and now the fact that it's just built and built and built, and he looks legit, shows that they're sort of pushing in the right direction. Jeff Blashill also seems like he's kind of in that, not Ben Johnson territory, but at least like in the leader sense, it does feel like Jeff Blashill came in and they took on Jeff Blashill's personality. Ben Johnson came in, it seems like they took on Ben Johnson's personality. You're not really seeing that with the Bulls, but you are seeing them take advantage of a weak East. So we're being real nice to the Bulls. I feel like, I don't know if Josh Giddey's going to be here for a while. I like Matas. Matas is fairly young. I don't know if he's going to be it. I hope so. But the Bulls, the Cubs are like very much in the middle of the road. I feel very confident saying that the Cubs will not win a World Series in the next 10 years. I feel very confident saying that the White Sox won't win a World Series in the next 10 years, but that's a different story. The issue with both of these teams is that I think that they'll pretty much do the Jerry Reinsdorf, Dave Sampson quote, where it's, you want to give the fan base hope. You want to give them a decent series against the Brewers. Oh, went 5 games. They fought hard. Let's get them next year, right? But we're not going to spend on Kyle Tucker. We're not going to spend over $300 million, right? Some teams might go over $400 million. We're not going to spend $300 million. Huh?
I don't want Kyle Tucker.
That's fine. You're missing out on a good baseball player. Also, it's not your money.
Not my money.
So at the end of the day, the Cubs, who haven't signed a player like that in the third largest market, should be in on that. Like, that's just a different discussion. Also, there was a stat that I pulled up. Since 2021, players with a season of 115 OPS plus, there's like 12 of them with 5 seasons of 115 OPS plus since 2021 to 2025. Tucker's one of them. And all the other players make like $300 million. I think the only other player that didn't make $300 million was Kyle Schwarber, who is going to get the rare, elusive,
I'll take Schwarber,
more expensive second-year contract. Right. But like, you got soured on Tucker because of his second half. That first half, if it continued, you not only would want Kyle Tucker, you'd be willing to spend anything on Kyle Tucker.
That's very true.
I
got sour on a lot of players in that second half. Right.
And then 2026 is going to come back. They'll start winning games, and you'll be like, love my Cubs.
Love my Cubs.
So, it doesn't feel like the Sox or Cubs are going to take the bull by the horns. When we say the new generation is here, the Sox are getting out of it, but I really do wonder what the top end of this team is, because even if they are going to be like the Brewers and like the Rays, that means they'll be consistently decent and not World Series winners. The Rays have not won a World Series. The Brewers are not won a World Series. If the Sox are modeling themselves like a Milwaukee or Tampa, I don't think this rebuild's ever going to get to the point that we want them to. We can joke and play into the MLB.com prediction of 2033's White Sox winning the World Series. But I think at least what this graphic shows to me is which ones can be real and which ones can't be real. The Bears have the quarterback. The Bears have the coach. If they don't win a Super Bowl within the next 4 years, then I'll probably get a little bit iffy. But I think it's possible that the Bears win a Super Bowl in the next 4 years. The Blackhawks, I can see them winning a Stanley Cup in the next 10 years. It seems undeniable.
The Blackhawks are 100% on their way up right now for sure. And their young talent is finally not necessarily babies anymore. They're maturing as young players.
And it's going to be difficult with the current situation of the NHL because there's not a ton of free agents. The cap keeps rising, so teams can just afford those players. So the Blackhawks really haven't been able to spend on any big free agents. So I think that nailing down that timeline on when it will happen will be tough.
We still have those prospects too that like we're not going to see them for another like year or two, but we have them and they're good. We have our Mason West, we
have our quarterback.
100%.
And it feels like at least those two teams specifically getting the number 1 overall pick and taking those talents to the next level. It seems like it's a lot more realistic. The Sox, with the nature of baseball, if you're not going to spend to get the best players, it's going to be fairly difficult to win in Major League Baseball. And even if the Sox get the number 1 overall pick in 2026, the stat, I think, 2 number 1 overall picks have been Hall of Famers? One of them's Ken Griffey Jr., who's an undeniable talent. The other one is Harold Baines, who's kind of a deniable Hall of Famer. I know that's a slanderous thing to say on a White Sox podcast, but when you look at the WAR totals for Hall of Famers, there is one guy at the bottom. It is Harold Baines. I think that at the end of the day, if we wanted the Sox to be in a different place where they were, like where the Bears are or where the Blackhawks currently are, you pretty much need that undeniable second talent. And like, you look at the Cubs, not to start crap, but PCA isn't that guy. Like, PCA had a really good first half because he was protected by Kyle Tucker.
Part of the superstars, he is not the superstar.
No,
he will be surrounded and become better because he's surrounded by better players.
Yeah,
I don't think
but they're not going to spend to get better players, and that's going to be the issue. Like,
he's still young though too. But
yeah,
you're right. I mean,
well, the issue with him is he's just tiny, and like
he
when
needs
you're
to bulk up,
running around like that, you're diving around like that, you're basing a lot of your game on speed. That's like one of the first things to go. and his hitting profile isn't really drool worthy, right? Like, I think that his player comp is similar to like Javi Baez, where you're going to get a couple fun seasons out of him. Maybe even like Tim Anderson.
Hot take.
You'll get some fun seasons out of him, but this will not be a player that come 30, I think, is getting a large free agent contract.
That's a hot take.
I mean, I see it with Luis Robert Jr. Robert's is 5 inches bigger, 30 pounds heavier, and has a 30 homer season, and he has one. You know, it's tough when you're not like a guy that, like Kyle Tucker, I know you don't like him, when you're not like a real disciplined hitter, it's tough to make it work in Major League Baseball. And he really, PCA kind of fell off in the second half. So I don't know. There's my rant on the new era of Chicago. I think it is a good situation that we're currently in, but put stocks in the right team. When you see that the Blackhawks are at like 15,000 in attendance, go buy a Blackhawk ticket before they start selling out, because in about 2 to 3 years, you won't be able to get a Blackhawk ticket, very similar to 2010 to 2015. Let's take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We will talk about Zach Bove being a bozo after the break. But first, we want to let you know about our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with our friends over at Bet365. Sign up using code CHGO365. When you sign up, get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5, whether that bet wins or loses. And this is a great time to sign up with Bet365. You have college football, NFL, NBA, NHL, all in full swing, and they have a ton of offers for the NFL season. On Thursday night, you got a $10 safety net bet. On Sunday night, you get a share of a $365,000 jackpot of bonus bets. Place a $10 bet on the first touchdown scorer and get a split of $365,000 in bonus bets if your player scores the final touchdown of the game. And on Monday Night Football tonight, you get a 50% super profit boost token on same game parlays. And with the NBA going on, it's Bulls Spurs tonight. There's a CHGO same game parlay boost. Wemby to score 3+ points in the first quarter, Wemby to get 13+ rebounds, and P. Lee Williams to hit a 3. Head over to Bet365. Use code CHGO365. Bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets, whether your bet of $5 wins or loses. Use code CHGO365 when you sign up. Must be 21 plus. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER in app only. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Shady Rays. Even though it snowed and even though it is extremely cold, you still need sunglasses. Honestly, I think it's been more bright with the sun or with the snow on the ground than before. I don't feel like it was this sunny during the summer. So now is probably honestly the best time to get sunglasses. You know that moment, that time you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach or on the roof of your car or at a gas station 3 states away. We've all been there. I left mine at the park and just forgot it. Never went back. But when I found Shady Rays, it changed the game, because not only do I want to go back to get those high-quality sunglasses, I have the backs of, or Shady Rays has the back of me. It changed the game. Sunglasses are made for real life. They're seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And the best part, if you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. Shady Rays is the eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Let's welcome you back here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We got Colt Ray 12 in the chat saying, do you think Antonacci gets the call this year? Move Vargas to first place and play him at third. Locked on Sox is pretty high on him, it sounds like. I'm not super high on Antonacci. Right now, from the 108, is doing their typical Teresian beef loaf, make a trade with every team. And there's a decent amount of trying to force a Lenyn Sosa trade or a Vargas trade. And I think the person that they should honestly be selling high on is Sam Antonacci. Antonacci was just on the list of Baseball America's hottest prospects at the AFL, in front of Kevin McGonigal, an infielder for the Detroit Tigers. If you look at McGonigal and if you look at Antonacci, McGonigal is obviously a top 100 prospect, but he's a top 100 prospect because of the profile, because it does lend itself to a somewhat power profile, because he swings at a lot of strikes and doesn't swing at a ton of balls. Where Antonacci, it is an extremely high rate of contact, but I don't know if he's a second baseman. I don't know if he's a third baseman. Doesn't seem like he's a shortstop. Doesn't bring like next level positional value. And at the end of the day, maybe you get 3 to 5 homers from Antonacci in an MLB season. I think it's a really tough profile to make work at the major league level if you're not elite of the elite, if you're not extremely young. Maybe Antonacci makes it work, and maybe he makes it work for a very, brief part of his start of his career. Maybe he has even like a Luis Arraez run, but look at Arraez. Arraez got traded off the Twins, got traded off the Marlins, got traded off the Padres. Or I guess he didn't get traded off the Padres, but the Padres aren't signing him back. Like, it's a real tough profile to be an extremely high contact guy with not a ton of pop, with, I guess, iffy defensive value. Like, I don't think he has a position. I don't know if he's like super flexible. I don't know. I think if Antonacci's still in the organization, he'll get a call at some point. I think he'd be like the first infielder up if there's an injury. But I'm not as high on Antonacci at the end of the day. I think Antonacci's a decent player, and he's obviously got speed. He can get on base. But I still want pop. And if I have to decide between like Mydroth and Antonacci, I kind of feel like I want Mydroth. Seems like he can be a second baseman. The advanced metrics don't love him as a second baseman, but I do think that he can play better as a second baseman, mainly because how well he played at shortstop. I think that Mydroth, with an offseason to just play second base, I think can get more comfortable at that spot. And if he's an above average defender at second base, him being around a 94 OPS plus, I think does have room to grow, as he took on a decent amount of wear and tear this year. But when he was locked in and not like getting out really early in the count, Mydroth was a real dangerous player. And we did see a decent amount of pop from Mydroth. Like, he did have the ability to kind of just say, like, all right, I'm going to try to pull a ball down the line, like early in a count. I think he did it to Imanaga and Wrigley during the Cubs series. So I like Mydroth, I think, more than Antonacci. So if that answers your question, Colt, like, I like Antonacci, but I don't need him to be like a part of the future for the Chicago White Sox. I think he's just a piece. All right, let's get into Zach Bove. We do have the CHGO Diehard Discord. If you do want to join, we have several different codes that you can sign up for right now at $36. You can use the one for John's, JAHNS. You can unlock premium coverage, events, merch discounts, and obviously you can unlock the Diehard Discord, where I was able to chat with our pal Jared CWS, who gave his thoughts on Zach Bove. And this is not really strictly to Jared, and honestly, I'll give Jared credit because Jared isn't just, the typical person that's like, oh, well, this is a Royal. This is bad. I love the guy that was like, oh, this is not who I would hire as a hitting coach. I would have asked Frank Thomas or Paul Konerko. It's like, you would have asked the two guys that understood. Jared, obviously coming here from a educated background and at least a position. Bove just did an interview with Chuck Garfien for CHSN. Jared says, I remember when Bannister was introduced and I sought out interviews. He spoke about pitching in a way that felt so informed and smart. That interview was kind of a letdown, speaking about the Bove one. For example, when Chuck asks, what did they do to limit the Sox to 4 runs in the KC series? He says he was actually the pitching coach for one of those games, but doesn't have any real information regarding the approach versus the White Sox. I think that that's more of a circumstance of the growing and expanding of baseball front offices. We've seen it with Chris Getz taking over, that they're hiring more and more people, that some of these positions that people are being signed to sound made up. But I think that's part of having all this data, is having people to manage it and install it in different ways. I think that the reason why Bannister kind of encapsulated and captured your imagination and you wanted to start like seeking out stuff like that is because Bannister's is a great speaker, but Bannister's been a lifelong pitcher and in a way a lifelong czar of pitching. He's been leading Zach Greinke through his baseball career ever since they were together on the Royals. When Pitch FX was introduced in 2006, Bannister's always been an early adapter of the pitching data and trying to leverage that into mound success. So it's not surprising that Brian Bannister can wax poetic about pitching for hours, right? Bove is a different situation. Shout out to Sox Machine, Bove. Listen to their podcast from Wednesday where they had sound from Bove, Getz, and Showman. And in that, forgot what I was going to say. Great.
In that
Sox Machine interview, they were playing clips. This is awesome. This is why you typically need two people on a show.
Zach Bove.
Zach Bove, great guy. What was I talking about? All right, whatever. I
don't know, Sean.
I don't know. I've never
Sean.
hit this part of a podcast where I just don't know what I was saying. Banny has been doing this for a long time. Got it. Bove explained that when he was at the Central College of Florida, he was the hitting coach from 2012 to 2014. He was a two-way pitcher and a two-way player in his college days. So I think he mentioned that he was more like enamored by hitting immediately. And the actual manager of the College of Central Florida said, no, you're now our pitching coach in 2014. So I don't think it's the same love of pitching that these two people have. Bannister wants to find every single edge, where it seems like Bove is more of a coach. And I think that's where we're seeing the delineation in baseball front offices are kind of big picture thinkers like Brian Bannister, and then Zach Bove, who likes the nitty gritty, the day-to-day, the interacting with 13 different pitchers, having to deal with a new guy, having to learn about that new guy. I think Bove likes that kind of immediate reward of, all right, let's work with a guy and try to see what his starts look like from every day to every day, where Brian Bannister, I think, is trying to think of what's the next way that we can find an edge just in baseball. So I think that's at least why an interview with a pitching coach can be deflating. I don't think Ethan Katz was that interesting. I think Bove kind of fits the same bill. At the end of the day, to be so enamored on like a day-to-day level, I think you have to have some sort of like mundaneness, right? Like you have to be able to, on a daily basis, just come in to be able to teach. And that takes a lot of patience. And I don't know if patience necessarily leads to excitement, because I think Bove could be definitely like a longer thinker, where Bannister's probably been like waiting for people to ask him questions like this for a long time. And also finally, when Jared brings up that Bove says he was actually the pitching coach for one of those games, but doesn't have any real information regarding the approach versus the White Sox, I think that that's, again, what we're seeing right now with the White Sox, where you have Walker McKinven as the defensive coordinator. If you look at the current Royal staff, they have a strategist / bullpen catcher, and that's also, they have two of them. It's Alan de San Miguel and Juan Graterol. They're both strategists / bullpen catchers. I think that most of the actual like game planning comes down to these people, right? Like I think a lot of the kind of smaller stuff, like a game plan, would be put onto like lower level people. So I think it's just delineating work. Where Brian Sweeney, it's like, all right, well, let's work on a grip. Like, or that's who's the current pitching coach for the Royals, with Bove, who worked under him. It's like, all right, well, I got to work on Cole Reagan's changeup grip because he's been losing the sharpness over the 3 starts. We got a bullpen to work with him. Why don't you go work on the newly acquired Lucas Ursig, right? And talk to him about his current journey and just try to more relate to him on a person-to-person basis, where a strategist is like, all right, well, here's the game plan. Here are the notes, right? It's just kind of more background stuff that, you know, it's not really on to Bove to understand that he's got to really more like feel a pitcher out on the mound and have that relationship with the pitcher on a more personal level to understand what that person needs to hear in that moment, or to understand that through their talking, like, hey, I got to pull this person, etc. So I think it's just something we have to wait and see on with Zach Bove, because for the most part, I think baseball like wasn't like, why the hell are the White Sox doing this? And Chris Getz, we'll talk about it in a second. I really like the process of hiring Zach Bove and what he had to say about it. We're going to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We'll get to what Chris Getz had to say, and then we'll talk about Sean Burke's report card here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We got to let you know about our friends over at Four Seasons. For all the right reasons, call 866-4SEASONS. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric has been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. If you have a plumbing emergency, call Four Seasons. If you have an electrical emergency, call Four Seasons. If you need a new hot water tank installed today, call Four Seasons. Now is the time to schedule your Four Seasons furnace tune-up. If you're thinking about a whole home generator, they have you covered. At Four Seasons, they guarantee same-day installation for all your heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, and generator needs with no extra charges for nights, weekends, or holidays. And you can save up to $4,000 on furnaces and comfort systems with Four Seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric. Call today and save $50 from your local trusted experts. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. They've been serving the community in Chicagoland for over 50 years. Your trusted local experts are Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Eye on the Ball. Dave and Chris are CHGO diehards, and they have started out this fantastic journey called Eye on the Ball. One of them was looking for a golf coach for their daughter. He was calling around to courses for course pros, asking, hey, do you offer golf lessons for my daughter? He could not find the right coach for him. That's when the light bulb went off and said, I can find the solution. I could be the solution. EyeOnTheBall.net. If you are looking to level up your game, the right coach can change everything, and now finding one is easy with Eye on the Ball. It doesn't matter if you're a kid just starting out or competing at the top level. You could sign up totally free at EyeOnTheBall.net, create your profile, search through your coaches in your sport, and connect directly with the one that's right for you. From soccer to swimming, baseball to basketball, you name it, the coaches are there. So what are you waiting for? Your future coach can be just one click away. Jump on today at EyeOnTheBall.net. That's EyeOnTheBall.net. Find your coach and take your game to the next level. And what's up, Goop Like Soup? Shout out to him. Colt Rice says, Chase, to me, feels like he can be a 110 OPS plus guy in the future. That'd be a fairly largish jump. It's like a 15-point jump. I could see that being like a career high year for him. If he's in a spot where he's like 100 to 105, that will be a beneficial player. That will get him to around 2 WAR consistently. And then anything over, if he's near 105, if he's near 110, then we're talking maybe like 3 to 3.5 WAR potential from Chase, which is, again, it's second base. If you can find somebody that can give you consistency rather than like the up and downs of kind of like Andres Jimenez, I guess is what I'm thinking of. Jimenez great this year. I think he was great, in 2022 with the Guardians, but in between there, 2023 to 2024, like kind of iffy. I think what you're looking for in a second baseman is a decent amount of consistency. And I could be off on Jimenez's 2023 and 2024, but it's neither here nor there. Let's talk about Chris Getz. I said I liked his hiring process of Bove and Showman. This is from Sox Machine. I transcribed it. Wasn't sure if I could play the clip. So shout out to them for at least sharing that. James Fagan does a great work of covering the Sox over at Sox Machine in person there. But Getz said, it was a collaborative process. Will and I talked every day. We had identified which areas needed to improve, and then there is the how. Through that process, we decided to move on from individuals. As we worked through the hiring process, you target a long list. We came to a decision together. It was never about Will gets his guys or Chris getting his guys. It's what's best for the organization. And I do think at the end of the day, while I didn't love the hiring of Chris Getz, I think that his position is sort of what we needed for the White Sox. This is a person that had worked there for several years. And while his organization, his part of the organization, wasn't really thriving in player development, that doesn't mean that Chris Getz doesn't understand what needs to happen. The talk is fairly corporate, as the Sox Machine guys said, but I think that's a better department from what Rick Hahn typically was. It seemed like it was very much a Rick and Kenny process. It seemed like they were the end-all, be-all, where at least with the White Sox now, I know we don't like the collaborative word because Matt Nagy and the Bears drove that into the ground, but it is about hiring people, letting those people do the work, taking the information those people giving to you, and then making decisions. That seems very modern, and I appreciate that with the White Sox. And I do appreciate the lack of ego. The fact that Chris really hasn't had a streak to him where he's trying to somewhat brag about what they've done and what they haven't done. He has been fairly steady when he meets the media. It seems like, we like our progress, but we're still looking to build bigger and better. He doesn't really get himself into hot water, which is a good and bad thing. He's not that interesting, but you don't really need to be an interesting person if you're getting the job done. And I think he probably is interesting, but he's got to obviously position. That's very important, so it doesn't matter for him to be interesting. But I think what Getz is trying to build, and Goop brings this up, I had this conversation about when Ishbia becomes owner, does he change GMs? I hated how Chris got hired, but I love the guys who he did hire. I think it's more about Getz providing stability. If he can look at Ishbia and said, hey, I've changed this dinosaur of an organization into a somewhat modern, front of the line organization, I think that he could possibly win over Ishbia, especially if you start seeing results. If Chris Getz is going from 121 to 101 to 90 to 81 to 70, right? I think it would be pretty undeniable to say Getz doesn't know what he's doing. Ishbia isn't like a baseball lifer, so if he has somebody that, like Chris Getz, can flip an organization like that, I think he's showing that he can at least spend a billionaire's money well. So I just like the fact that this White Sox team isn't getting, phone calls from Jerry Reinsdorf to be like, hey, hire Tony La Russa. Tony La Russa's name hasn't been brought up in these PR sessions. Like, it does feel like Chris Getz is going about this the right way. And it looks like they're looking for coaches that can connect and teach these players. And that's the one thing that I'm excited about. In that interview with Bove, Chuck said the KC Star says Bove was instrumental in optimizing pitch sequences, pitch grips, and helping control through the strike zone. Along with that, Bove said that it's mainly individualized. It's about reaching the player, and it's about growing with them through the season. And I think that that's what Ryan Fuller is thinking about. I think that that's what Brian Bannister's thinking about. I think that's what Will Venable is trying to think about is, hey, if I got X advice during my playing career, would I have been 10% better or whatever? I think they're looking at this as former players trying to help former players get to the spots that they wish they desired. And I think that's the best part of coaching is, obviously the best way to learn is experience, and the people that can truly connect that experience to results will be the best coaches. And I just think that Bove is about coaching, and very nice. I don't know why I did more. All right, let's move on. Report card time. We got some Sean Burke stuff to talk about. I looked into this, and I don't know if I loved what we saw from Sean Burke. I don't need to go into the numbers too much for Sean. The main numbers are 134 innings pitched, a 4.22 ERA. The FIP was fairly high as well. You could see there, and this is from @TJ Stats. The FIP is around 4.92, so not great there. The 22% K rate is fine, but then the double-digit walk rate's pretty terrible. So what do we take from Burke's 2025? I think that you could take that there is a framework of a good pitcher there. How do the White Sox turn this pitcher into a third, a fourth, or a fifth starter? It seems like he's on the precipice of being that, and he just needs that help, that coaching help from the outside. The actual report card, you could show it. Fastball C+ for Sean Burke, slider D-, curve C+, changeup F, overall C-. That C- is mainly coming from he pitched a career high. I think it's his second time in his pitching career that he's gotten over 100 innings. So for a young pitcher that really needed to just give them innings, I'll give him a decent amount of credit for, even with the pretty mid stuff, he was able to, get to 6 innings of a fair amount of time, or 5 innings, right? I didn't love what we saw from Sean Burke, but there were outings that he really flashed. When you look at the fastball, he's got really good rise. And compared to major league averages, he doesn't get a ton of glove side run, which means it's a fairly straight fastball, which isn't a negative thing. Typically, you're reacting to those pitches. You don't have a lot of thought process to be like, oh, Sean Burke's fastball has less glove side run, so I need to move my bat. The pitch is already behind you, right? A lot of the times you're going up there and trying to react and use your contact skills to square up a pitch. And that's why people that deviate from the norm can throw off professional hitters. And if you could just make it a little bit more annoying of an at-bat, you'll lead to just getting right inside the barrel or, swinging and missing, etc. Burke coming from that 6'6" frame's great. Obviously a huge plus. The extension on all of those pitches are above 7 feet. Huge plus there. The velocity's decent. The true issue that he has is control. And I don't know if that's mainly because of the 6'6" frame. You can look at past stories from KC and see Cole Reagan's a guy that had command issues, really locked in once coming over to KC. Hopefully Bove can help that with Sean Burke. But the stuff isn't that great. Good rise, less arm side run on his fastball, 102 stuff plus, so it is an above average pitch. He does have a high whiff rate versus the major league average for starter pitching. It's 4% better. He has an average compared to the major league average that is 0.018 less, so he lets on a lower batting average than the major league average. The slugging percentage is negative 0.65 on a slugging percentage. The biggest issue with this fastball is a 52% zone rate, major league average 57.2%. So Burke, even though he doesn't hit the zone a ton, doesn't let that fastball get damaged. I think that could stay consistent if he can throw it in the right places and get people to swing more. So the biggest thing for Burke, at least with his fastball, is command. I think it's possible that fastball gets to a B+, and I think at the end of the day, that fastball can turn him into a major league reliever. The slider is poor. 26.4% whiff rate. The average on major league sliders from starters, 30.8% whiff rate, so about a 4% difference there. The MLB average on slugging percentage for sliders, 364. For Burke, it was 543, so nearly 200 points higher than the major league average. and he allowed a ton of line drives. And the major issue with his slider is he doesn't get a ton of vertical drop, low vertical drop among average. He does have an above average horizontal movement, but I don't think it's enough to truly draw whiffs. I think if he is going to get success on his slider, he either needs to change it to a cutter and just throw it higher up in the zone to try to induce those line drives into ground balls. Oh, here comes the fastball. No, it's a cutter. Oh, swung my barrel in the wrong position. It's a weak rolled over grounder. Maybe that is the change there for Sean Burke. The curveball, though, is something that I'm very excited about. The thing, too, about his slider is I don't really want a ton of horizontal movement. I want him to get more vertical drop, because the thing that he does really well with his curveball is get a ton of vertical drop, and he doesn't get a ton of horizontal movement, which then pushes it into the death ball category where it somewhat lines up his four-seam fastball and curveball in the same plane, and then you're really just saying, I don't know if this is a four-seam fastball, I don't know if this is a curveball, I have 30 feet to decide, I'm swinging in the middle, and hopefully you're just swinging over it, right? Whether it's a fastball high or a curveball low. Like, I think that Burke has an elite curveball. It's below the major league average, 212 batting average versus the major league average of 231. So nearly 20-point difference. League average on base percentage and a sub MLB slug, 346 compared to 386. 27.2% whiff rate compared to the MLB average, 30.8%. Obviously, it's about 3% different, but if he is able to, again, work on control, I think that he could probably entice people a little bit more with that curveball as long as he's having like a decent fastball offering. Then the changeup's terrible. Good whiff rate, but not much else. Got really like just killed. There isn't a ton of drop. It's well below average when it comes to vertical drop on his changeup, so that might be the one thing that they are able to work with. Sean Burke is some sort of kick change, etc., grip adjustment to pronounce the vertical depth on Burke's changeup. But if not, I think at worst Burke is a two-pitch relief pitcher where he just comes in for 3 batters, throws 98 four-seam fastballs, and has that curveball. And he might be a stressful guy in the bullpen, but I think that he does have the ability to get a decent amount of whiffs. We'll wrap up the show now. We do have 2 questions here. Dark Gift saying, I saw the press conference where Getz was saying it was a collaboration choosing Bove. That was a world sale. It's saying the manager can't choose his own people. Why? But why? Why does the manager need to choose the right people? The whole point why he didn't pick Will and said in there was that Will didn't want his guys. Will didn't have guys necessarily. Why also do you need to have guys? Dave Duncan made Tony La Russa special. I'm not buying it. Pedro Grifol had his guys, and he was a clown. He's a baseball guy. He should be able to work with anybody. He played on a 26-man roster that was ever-changing. He's met a ton of baseball players in his life. He's met a ton of baseball coaches in his life. I don't care that he wants his own people. He doesn't need to have his own people. His own people can be stupid and dumb. Let's get people that are smart and can coach. I don't care about choosing his own people. I also don't think Getz is we're not listening to Will Venable. I do believe that it's a collaborative effort. And as long as, no one's getting massively egotistical and then creating a gap in that collaboration, the Sox should be fine. Months Behind says, any chance of the minor league pitching prospect making an impact instead of spending money in free agency on pitchers? Yeah, I think that Hagen or Noah could probably come up during the 2026 season. Maybe McDougal could be a part of the rotation at the start of the year, but it's mostly making in-house adjustments, and I think it's more about having a better 40-man roster than last year, so the depth is just better. So if you're losing a Jonathan Cannon because he's been performing poorly, you're replacing him with a similar Jonathan Cannon, right? It's not a major fall off where if you're sending Cannon and Burke down to the minor leagues, you get a decent performance from Yoendry Gomez, but we got to find more Yoendry Gomez's, I guess, is the real point. We're going to wrap up here on the CHGO White Sox. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you very much to Sarah for producing the show. I'm Sean Anderson. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow here on the CHGO White Sox podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.